I'll call out my own spouse. Please stop talking and come sit down. Thank you. We're going to get started in just a minute. There's some seats up here. Quick housekeeping. There's also copies of the book at the table in the back. I have a couple of announcements about corrections once we get underway. I feel like we should have like a New Year's clock to count down to officially start at 7. That looks like officially 7 o'clock to me, so I am going to start our meeting. Good evening, welcome. Thank you all for being here. It is really nice to stand up here and see the seats filled in this room. My name is Sasha Tracy, and I'm here tonight as your meeting moderator, and I want to welcome you all to the Jackson School District annual meeting. There is a couple of business items before we get started tonight. First, I just want to thank you all again for being here. This process works in New Hampshire and it works in Vermont because people show up in this room and they share comments, they ask for clarification, and you raise your hands when it's time to vote. So thanks to all of you. A special thanks to the school board and especially to the administrators who are here tonight, who in preparation for tonight's meeting always do a lot of work. But this year there are a lot of questions facing this community about the future of education and possibilities for education, and Pam and Amy and Michael and Erin have gone above and beyond, meeting after meeting, supporting the school board and various committees and all of you to make sure information that you need in order to make informed decisions tonight is out and available and clear. So thanks to all of you. And it is a practice of this meeting to stand for the pledge, so I will ask you all to stand and join. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As we get started tonight, I also had another pledge in mind. Usually I go through some agreements that we all kind of nod our heads to about how to be together in this space and agree and disagree together. But I think better than I could say it, we have a pledge at the Jackson Grammar School, our community school. And I'm just going to read it to you and ask that we could honor its spirit in this room tonight. As members of the Jackson School community, we respect all people. We respect the world around us, indoors and out. We take responsibility for our own actions, but we also reach out helping hands. We try hard, we play fair, and we include everyone. When we come to the Jackson Grammar School, we come for learning, we come for community, and we come for fun. So tonight, as you face the questions that are before you about budgets and allocations, I hope that everyone will include one another, play fair, and learn together with respect and kindness. So my job here tonight is to, as your elected moderator, is to maintain an impartial perspective in this room and to be fair and equitable with time in this public meeting. So as we go through the warrants tonight, there will be the opportunity to ask questions, to comment, and gain clarity. I will ask folks a procedure that's different than what we've done before. If you've been here before with me up here, I have run around this room and passed microphones. It's pretty time consuming and kind of clunky. It's also hard to hear. So if you are able, I'm going to ask that you come up and ask your questions or make your comments at the microphone in the front of the room. If that is not something that's comfortable for you or physically possible, let me know and I will bring you a microphone. But I think it will be more efficient and it will make sure that the folks here who are going to provide that information can hear you and you'll get your answers. Anyone in the room is invited to share. A reminder that it is Jackson residents that will vote later tonight. When you come up to comment or ask questions, please state your full name and your town of residence so that we have that for the minutes, even if you think we might know it. Please keep your comments to a reasonable amount of time and share the voice. There are a lot of you here, and I'm sure many of you would like to contribute to tonight's conversation. So you've all got those yellow books. A couple of quick items. There are 3 corrections I want to make you aware of because it may be information that you want to have. The first is on page 30. There are a number of statistics about students at Jackson Grammar, and the K-12 total should be 37, not 27. And the second correction is that typically on that page is another table with anticipated enrollment. Those numbers were in progress when some of the books were printed. So Susan put together a supplement. It looks like this small half sheet of paper. If you have a staple on the back of your book, you already have one in there. If you don't, you can raise your hand, and Susan has a handful of them that she can pass out, and maybe you will be willing to share with your neighbor or share with the person that you came with. So go ahead and raise your hand if you are missing a supplement that looks like the half sheet and you would like one. And then finally, on page 4, you will see the Jackson School District warrant pertaining to election of officers. This will be corrected on the warrant, but it is not correct in your book. Article 4 should read to elect 1 member of the school board for the ensuing 1-year term. So there is an Article 3 that's for a 3-year term, and then an Article 4 should be for a 1-year term. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Now on to our business at hand. So the first order of business is I'd like to ask for a motion to dispense with the reading of the checklist. Is there one? Will you say your name and the town you're from? Thank you. And a second? Second, Sarah Clemens. Thank you. Second, Sarah. Thanks. All those in favor? Thank you. Second, I'd like to ask for a motion to dispense with the reading of the full warrant as we'll review and consider each article individually as we proceed tonight. Is there a motion?
So moved. Scott Patrick.
Thanks, Scott. Scott Patrick. Second?
Second, Tim Scott.
Thanks, Tim. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The first article for your consideration, I will read in full to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $3,970,978 for the support of schools for the payment of salaries, district officials and agents, and the payment of the statutory obligations of the district, with $21,000 offsetting the amount from various grants. This article does not include appropriations voted on in other warrant articles and is unanimously supported by the school board. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion. Yetta, Glazer, Jackson.
Thank you, Yetta. And a second? Susan Boston Jackson. And now I will open the floor for discussion. Okay, Emily, will you? Yep. Thanks, model for us. I know it's different than the way we've done it. I'm actually be honest.
Right about there.
Yeah.
Hello.
Perfect. Maybe a little higher.
There, that's good.
Awesome.
So I'd like to address the Jackson School Board and everybody here tonight with this letter that we've submitted earlier to some folks. It is because of our passion for public education and deep ties to our town and the greater Mount Washington Valley that we are writing this letter. Please consider us your allies, as we believe we share the same interests. In particular, we want Jackson Grammar School to continue to thrive and remain central to the fabric of our small town. First, we would like to acknowledge that the state of public education is in crisis in this valley, in our state, and in the country. We believe that the public education experience offered at JGS is focused on the vision that all students will be able to reach their full potential as local and global citizens, which is essential to assuring a healthy society in the future. We recognize Principal Erin Messer's tireless work, thank you, as well as all the staff at JGS and each member of the school board and SU9 as they work together to accomplish this vision. Erin stepped in and righted a ship. We have full faith in her abilities and are grateful for her efforts over the past year and a half. However, in recent years, we have also voiced growing concern regarding the declining JGS student population. According to the 25-26 census, the school population will be 29 Jackson students, plus 5 non-resident staff member children. The recently distributed Jackson School District Annual Report indicates there are 21 staff members, full and part-time. The cost per pupil at the Jackson Grammar School was $42,514 in 23-24. This does not include transportation costs or tuition students at Bartlett Middle School and Kennett High School. This is the second highest cost per pupil in New Hampshire, with a state average at $22,106. Next year, with fewer children and a higher budget, Jackson could approach number 1. We feel it is imperative that efforts be made to develop a school budget more aligned with our tiny school population, keeping excellence at the forefront. Moving forward, Jackson as a whole is facing a significant tax increase. However, our request is not to cut the 25-26 school district budget. We want to give Erin and the board the opportunity to develop a new and appropriate budget as an integral part of updating the district's next strategic plan, and a budget more appropriate to the student census. We offer our support and encourage fellow townspeople to get involved in the process and endorse the goals that are set forth in the 22-27 strategic plan as well. We need to work hard to ensure the long-term viability of Jackson Grammar School and for departments across our community. Here at the school district meeting and at the upcoming annual town meeting, we will introduce an initiative to promote the concept of a unified Jackson community, where all public entities and organizations in Jackson work together to support each other. Our community needs to be proactive in planning for its financial future. We need to consider ways to collaborate across all town departments and organizations. A great first step in this process is already underway in the community programming calendar. We are also seeing collaboration between the Whitney Community Center and JGS to offer summer programming for our children. We are ready to meet with JGS staff and the school board to identify other organizations in Jackson who can provide funding and support programming for our students. In this same spirit, we request that the Jackson Public Library work in conjunction with JGS staff and make every attempt to accommodate the school's library needs when considering filling the soon-to-be vacated position of the Jackson Public Library's children's librarian. Thank you for your time and consideration of our thoughts and ideas. Together as a community, we feel confident that everyone of all ages will thrive as a result of our collaborative effort. And this is on behalf of myself, Ann Bennett, and Tish Hamlin.
Thank you, Emily.
Is that good?
Other questions, comments, or clarifications pertaining to Article 1? Sarah, come on up.
Sarah Clemens, I just didn't hear the number she gave per student. I'm sorry.
Sure. Emily, do you mind just clarifying the cost for Sarah?
$42,514.
Thank you.
And that's the DOE cost per pupil.
Other questions, comments, clarifications pertaining to the budget before I call for a vote? Tish, come on up.
Tish Hamlin, Jackson. We purposefully didn't ask for a cut in the budget when we wrote that letter because we feel it's right for the school board and Erin and everybody to really work hard on figuring out what the right budget is. I'm not an educator, I'm not pretending to be one, but I do think it's important for people to understand that when we look at these numbers, we're looking at numbers from 23-24 school year. Back then, we had 40-something kids in the school. that number is based on that. Since then, the budget has gone up and the numbers have gone down. So really, we're looking at a much different number for the numbers today and for the numbers that will be next year. So I think it's just imperative that we take this seriously in order to keep the school open and have it be the great school that it is. But we have to look very seriously. So I just wanted to mention that because we're really looking back to look at that 42,000 per student and not today's numbers at all.
Thank you, Tish. Sarah? Sure, yes, your question was Emily. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
She mentioned test scores. Could you please tell me where we stand in the standardized testing, what our numbers are, how we're doing in that manner?
Madam Chair, do you have that information available tonight? And if it's readily available, I'm going to say yes and answer the question. I also think we need to stay in the conversation about the budget. So if you have it, great, and if you don't, perhaps we can get back to Sarah with that answer.
I think I can give you what you passed out. We're working on a report to come out of the school board meeting on DPOs, and we're working on Christopher Shea, who's curriculum and assessment. So we're working on a complete report that's going to highlight all our test scores to be presented at the next board meeting in April, a comprehensive report that will use our state data and also our local assessments. So I think that will be very comprehensive as far as telling us exactly where we are. So I would feel more comfortable. I could bring some up that we have, but I think that comprehensive report would be more useful and informational.
Well, if you could bring that up now, we'd have something to see what you did us in April. It's not all.
I'm actually going to ask Erin to hold that, and you can share it at the end of the meeting. Just a second, James, I see you. And keep the scope of questions and comments specifically to the budget. We have some other articles to address tonight. I know there are questions about quality that are directly connected to cost, and this community wants to have them. Tonight, I'm going to refer our attention and try to keep us in bounds, focused on the articles that are here, which are about making a decision on the proposed school budget and the various warrants that follow. So Erin, if you can have that information either available at the end of the meeting or let folks know when it will be, that would be great. James, so you have one already.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for their comments so far and for the letter. And I thought the letter was very thought-provoking, and I was interested. And so sometimes when I get interested, I want to learn more about a topic. I thought it might be helpful to share some context that I learned as I went to the document that was referred to in the letter showing the cost per student for New Hampshire schools. One of the things that was on my mind is, I don't disagree that the budget is an important thing to be really responsible with for the school and for the community. But hypothetically speaking, if we imagine a situation where there wasn't a public school in Jackson, it's important to bear in mind that then Jackson kids would have to be educated elsewhere. It turns out that the cost per student at Bartlett, where we would most likely tuition our kids, is 18th in the state, which is not number 2, but it is in the 90th percentile of almost 180 public schools. Similarly, the cost per student that Jackson pays to send its kids to Kennett High School, and there are some people who have argued very persuasively for us remaining supporters of Kennett High School. That's 5th in the state of all the high schools in the cost per student. So the context that I understood from looking into some of the adjacent schools and the cost per student is that it appears that it's quite expensive to educate students in our little valley, and which is not a reason that we all shouldn't be looking for opportunities to save costs. But it is a reminder that, that first of all, were we to somehow make a decision that we we couldn't afford a public school in Jackson, we would still be paying very costly tuition. And the expenses are high for rural areas, and especially for our school district. Thank you.
James, yeah, go for it.
James Wrigley, I'm currently a resident of Conway. I have 2 children in the school and a third to come in a couple of years. I think a definitely laudable goal to be responsible with our dollars, our taxpayer dollars here in town. I think looking over the budget line by line, it's notable that, it's a pretty significant increase from last year's budget to this year's budget. The vast majority of that is in special education funding and the sending students to Bartlett rather than being here at Jackson, right? I think that's probably, I had the numbers last night, I don't have them off the cuff right now, but that's a pretty significant portion of the increase. I think, again, we should be trying to be creative about these things, and I think we're pecking around the edges if we're moving a person who works 1 day a week to another part, to join them together. We're talking about $10,000 here, $15,000 there. Yes, that can add up, but is that going to erase the $600,000 cost for special education that's mandated by the state and the federal government? We're going to be hard pressed to do that. So, I guess I just want us to be realistic and not say, hey, we're going to be really creative and save $1 million next year. I don't think that's something that really is in the cards. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you, James. Other questions, comments, or clarifications? Come on up, Peter.
Peter Benson, you'll be happy to know I don't have a comment, just a question, which is unusual for me. In the white handout about the budget summary, under the special education trust fund, it shows an estimated balance of $258,549. Is there a thought that might be used to offset some of the added expense for special education for this year, or is that a meeting previously, somebody had said that was zeroed out or that wasn't there. So could I just get a clarification on that?
Thanks, Peter. At the last meeting, I talked about that we have a tuition line, a special ed tuition line, and we started the year with that at 0. We've had unanticipated costs for multiple students and multiple services, and we've already spent $139,000 there. We also have $63,000 encumbered there, and anticipate in the next several weeks to have a more significant increase as well. That's the variability of special education. We do have $21,000 in our IDEA grant that will be used to pay for some of that cost, but that will only get us a short place in the next 3.5 months.
Any other questions or comments pertaining to Article 1?
Tasha, more I can do some of this results now.
I think let's hold them and vote on the budget. I just want to acknowledge that there are a whole lot of burning questions, qualitative questions about education that connect to finance that are in this room, and they happen over the last year. And it is so difficult to want to have all of those conversations and to be here for something that is pretty boundary by its nature. So thank you all for your wonderful questions and ideas, and I know that this group of people plans to open more forums for these conversations to take place. And with that, I'm just going to check in one more time. Any comments, questions pertaining to Article 1? All right, since it's been a minute, like a few of them, I'm going to read it one more time. Article 1 is to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $3,970,970,978 to support schools for the payment of salaries, school district officials and agents, and the payment of statutory obligations within the district, with $21,000 offsetting the amount from various grants. This does not include appropriations voted on in other warrant articles. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor of Article 1 as proposed, can you please say aye? And all those opposed? Great, article passes. Thank you all. Article 2, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be added to the capital reserve fund for special education previously established for this purpose. This is recommended unanimously by the school board. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Sarah, a second?
Sarah Moore, seconded.
We'll go with Noah because I saw his hand first. No leader, Jackson. Discussion? Questions? Comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. And those opposed? Wonderful. Article 3, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $3,000 to be added to the Whitney Maintenance Trust Fund previously established for this purpose in 2010. Again, unanimously recommended by the school board. Is there a motion? Great, thank you, Allison Brand. A second? Great, Lauren Meter. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. Article 4, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be added to the expendable general trust or the school building maintenance fund established for this purpose in 1996, unanimously recommended by the board. Is there a motion? Great, Susan Rossbaron. And a second?
Charlie Moore, seconded.
From Charlie Moreau. You know, by not saying your name, you're quizzing me on how well I know your community, right? All those in favor? And those opposed? Great. Article 5, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be added to the school bus capital reserve fund previously established for this purpose in 1988. Again, unanimously recommended by the school board. Is there a motion? I don't know that guy, Jack Tracy. And a second? Don't be shy.
I'll second.
Thank you, Pat Walsh. Yes, wonderful. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Terrific. Oh,
Sarah did have a question.
oh, Sarah, I'm sorry. I didn't see your hand. So we will back that up. So Jack and Pat, thank you very much. Let's go back. There's a motion on the floor. And Sarah, go ahead, discussion. Yeah.
Do you need a second before I can speak?
We have a second, Pat.
My name is Sarah Clemens, and I realize, according to the state statutes, I believe we have to have a school bus. But I would just like to say that I see the school bus go by my house every day empty. So evidently, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, that with all the talk about climate change and so on and so forth, the hundreds of cars that are parked at Kennett High School with students driving to and from school, and the minimal amount of children in Jackson Grammar School whose parents are very fortunate and bring them every day and pick them up, I just feel that every year I say, I don't know why we have to have them, but I know we do. But I'm just asking people, if you're that concerned about our Earth and our planet, maybe they could ride the bus and we could save a few trips with the other cars.
Thank you, Sarah. Peter?
Just a question, are we on roughly a 6 or 7 year replacement schedule for the 2 bus rotation? Because we just replaced one last year, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so we're going to try and raise $25,000 a year for the next 5 or 6 years to replace it. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on Article 5? All those in favor? Aye. And any opposed? Wonderful. All right, a couple more items, so don't jump out of your seats yet. So Article 6 is to ask all of you if there's any other business that needs to legally come before this meeting this evening. Sarah?
I would just like to know if the letter that Emily Benson read, if it could be put into the email news of the, or so we can all see it. I would appreciate that if you could do that.
Do you want me to do that?
I think after we close the meeting, if we could figure out a way to get a digital copy that could be included in the minutes. And I imagine folks here have it, but if not, we will sync you all up.
Yep.
All right, before we dissolve this meeting tonight, those of you, oh, raise them high, come on up, Ann.
I'll make it really short. Ann Bennett, Jackson. Cost of charter school students, is that paid from district funds to the charter school? Pretty straightforward.
The district is responsible for any special education services to charter school students. We do have expenses, we do have students there, but the numbers are so small, I prefer not to. They're wrapped into the special ed tuition line.
What about regular tuition?
No,
That's not included in our budget. We have kids from Jackson going to the charter school.
that's correct.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I didn't hear what Ann said. I apologize.
Sure, hang on, I'm bring you the mic. I could recap your question that way.
The question was about tuition to charter schools and whether the school district pays those funds or whether they, assumedly, come from the state of New Hampshire. And I appreciate the information about special education costs as a clarification, but I was actually also just wondering in general. So that was the question. Is that clear?
Yes,
Great.
and your comment was that we do have students that are going from Jackson to the charter school, that the tuition is paid through the special ed.
The portion, it's confusing, it is confusing. The portion that's paid by Jackson District for students at the charter school is to cover any special education services. Those amounts, those totals are wrapped into the line called special ed tuition. Some of them are found in a speech pathology line, an occupational therapy or OT line.
Thank you for clarifying.
I want to clarify.
That, and then Courtney will come to you. Do you have a mic?
So just to further clarify, my understanding is that the students who attend charter school, regardless of what school district they come from, tax dollars from the school budget doesn't pay for tuition to the charter school. There may be some state funds that go to the charter school, but no, there's no part of the Jackson School Board budget that pays for tuition for charter school students.
Right, hi, I'm Courtney Wrigley of Sugar Hill Lane in about a month. I hope that clarifies why my husband spoke. Our children are just joined at JGS. And I just wanted to say something because I can't help myself. And just so grateful to be part of the Jackson community and Jackson Grammar School. And I just want to encourage everyone here, our town and our school board, to really think about what Emily shared in the letter. I think that it was a well-worded letter. The commitment to having a village school was very clear. And also the real concern about how to sustainably continue to have that when we have demographic pressure and huge housing cost pressure. We lived here 5 years before, or for 5 years, 10 years ago, so 15 years when we lived in Jackson, wanted to stay, could not. Have been lucky to be able to find a way, but I know a lot of families who really would love to be part of this community. It's wonderful to be part of a generous community that is able to have a lot of resources to think creatively about really how to commit to a village school. And I just want to say from the experience that we had as a North Conway family over the past year or so with what happened in the rest of SAU 9 and the way that that went down. If you were following, I'm sure you saw, it was chaotic, unplanned, disorganized, and I feel like part of that was because some of those concerns were not planned for and really taken seriously by administration, by our elected school board. I don't fault them, it was just a very difficult situation, and I do hope that they are doing well, but I don't know if anyone really could see what happened was going to happen. And I just want to say we need to stay committed and not just show up in these forums as a way to talk, because this kind of one-off person talking is really challenging. So wanted to say that offering to bring facilitation skills, many of us have that here, to continue the community conversation, to have what it takes to have a Jackson that can have people who thrive from the earliest years, under 3 to 99, living well together. I don't think anybody wants to see where there's only one age demographic able to live here without the other. I can tell you, by driving through North Conway Village, it is now starting to be more and more of a shell than what it was even a year ago. So I hope that you hear that, and thank you. I think we could see this as an opportunity to really continue that deep conversation, but I also do want to make sure that we don't just keep it as these high-level talking just about money, because it can get flashpoint and get real crazy real quick. So thanks for having this and letting me speak. Can't wait to be fully here in a month.
All right, we have a final order of business, but before we get there, in catching up about where we would place the microphone and how we would have you all seated, Chair Dalabella reminded me that tonight, at least on this side of the table, will be the last time that one of our school board members is sitting here. I think maybe he hopes. So folks who were here earlier, you're going to forgive me because I'm going to acknowledge Jerry twice tonight, and this time from a personal place. So I stepped into this role when my oldest child was 6 weeks old, after being here for a very exciting and engaging preschool conversation where this community turned out in droves and lined that hallway. And I realized, as a girl from New York, where we don't raise our hands for things, we like vote in strange ways, but it doesn't look like this, that town politics really matter and participation matters. I knew nothing, and Tim and Jerry have like whispered in my ear RSAs and procedural points for 6 years now, going on 7, and I really appreciate that mentorship. And without it, we would not be able to grow younger leaders in our community into these spaces. Jerry has served multiple decades behind this desk and others, and it is a hard place to sit. So I would ask you all to please stand and acknowledge that service.
For those who don't know me, my name is Jessica Dalabella. I'm the chair of the Jackson School Board, and hopping onto the comment from Courtney, and this idea that we have got folks that we serve and who live here from 3 to 99. I was going to point to Jerry, not identifying his age or anything else like that, but in the last meeting I pointed out that Jerry not only has served this school through his youth as a student here, but as a board member going on 2 decades. We figured out it was over 2 decades. I won't tell you how long. You can ask him that outside the meeting. But we have had a lot of differences of opinion. We've had a lot of debate in this room and in other rooms. And I take it as a great point of pride as a fellow New Yorker, Sasha, that we chose to move to a town where you can have differences of opinion with folks and still be able to enjoy watching their children thrive and grow. And my daughter grew up right alongside Ben, and I got to talk about the DARSA when they were in like 5th and 6th grade, and we sat here on this side of the table, or actually we were up on the stage when we were thinking about a public preschool, and we were running the gauntlet there, and we're here now running other gauntlets with other decisions, and there are more to come. So I do want to thank all of you for being here and for participating here and outside of these meetings, because as Courtney said, it is really important to have that civic engagement. We're very grateful. And we are really grateful to people like you, Jerry. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you've done over the years. And I know you will continue to do. As I said at the last meeting, I'm sure this won't be the last we hear from you on this side or that side of the table. So thank you, thank you.
All right, we are going to let you go home. We do need to have a motion to dissolve this meeting. Before I ask for it, you tell me. I hope you will all come back. If you have heard nothing else tonight, it's that there are a lot of decisions to be made about the future of education in this community, and you are all really brilliant, wonderful people, and you've come out tonight, so please come out again for committee meetings, to sit at this table or others and be part of this conversation. And with that, can I please ask for a motion to dissolve this evening's meeting?
So moved.
Tim? And a second, Susan? Wonderful. Thank you all. Have a good night.
I know, I was expecting a lot of
You're in the back ready to break it up?